The future of Rachel Reeves is tied to the evident failure of the Labour government 1 year into its term. And beginning with the human moment that seized headlines this week, the Chancellor in tears on the front bench during Prime Minister's questions, and Reeves' distress was, we're told, personal, unconnected to policy, yet in politics perception is everything. Bond markets reacted, certainly as if this was political, and the footage was so damaging it was pulled from official channels. It was a rare, raw moment in the theatre of power, a reminder that the weight of the nation's finances sits on one individual's shoulders. It was also a stark symbol of something larger, a government in crisis, a governing project unravelling, and after just a year in office, Labour has burned through much of its political capital. It arrived on the wake of hope with a majority of 165 seats, and today that mandate looks spent. A rebellion of 49 MPs this week was a flashing red light. And once you rebel once, you can rebel again. And MPs have realised that they can hold their own government to ransom. At the centre of this crisis is the Chancellor herself, Rachel Reeves, who promised iron discipline and fiscal stability, and she's delivered neither. She's inherited a fragile economic situation, true inflation, high debt and the scars of COVID, and indeed the scars of Brexit, yet her central boast was to be the adult in the room, and that claim is in tatters, as she is in tears. Repeated policy U-turns on disability benefits, on winter fuel payments, have blown a £5 billion hole in her budget. Plans to scrap the two-child benefit cap are reportedly dead in the water. And Reeves' hard line has collapsed under internal rebellion. Markets have taken note. Gilt yields spiked on rumours that she might resign. Analysts warn that her so-called fiscal headroom is vanishing. Even a modest rise in interest rates would obliterate the Chancellor's room for manoeuvre. So what went wrong? Partly Labour's own political cowardice. It promised no rises in income tax, VAT or national insurance, yet those three account for 60% of available revenue. The manifesto was wafer thin, designed not to spook voters but to deny itself options. And here's the essential failure. Reeves and Starmer refused to be honest with the public about the trade-offs. They cannot both protect the poor and the disabled, maintain generous pension rules, fix the NHS, and keep taxes frozen for the working population. Something must give. They promised fiscal responsibility while ruling out politically painful tax rises. They promised growth while rejecting meaningful investment in public services. They promised to restore trust while behaving like the last governments, bringing policy changes without securing their own benches. This is not simply Rachel Reeves' failure, it's Keir Starmer's failure. And the Prime Minister is widely described as cautious, lawyerly, managerial, but his caution has become drift, and his lawyerly manner has turned into equivocation. Instead of leading his party, he's been hostage to internal divides. His team hoped for a long honeymoon. Instead, they've been in crisis mode since day one. And what should happen next? If the Labour government wants to relaunch seriously, if Keir Starmer wants any chance of lasting more than one term, then it may well need a new Chancellor. And Rachel Reeves' credibility, therefore, is in question, not just in Westminster, but in the city, and tears will not save her. Markets prize consistency, clarity and discipline. They've seen instead confusion, panic, emotional collapse and tears. And a new Chancellor wouldn't fix everything, but it would send a message that Labour recognises the scale of its failure and is willing to change. More importantly, Labour must level with the public. It must acknowledge that without tax rises, including on middle incomes, it cannot pay for decent public services. It must be clear that any serious welfare reform will come at a political cost. It must be honest that growth is a long-term project requiring short-term sacrifice. And without this clarity, Labour risks repeating the errors of Liz Truss in miniature, promising magical solutions, delivering instability, and being punished by the markets. And none of this without Kwasi Kwarteng's prodigious package. Meanwhile, the danger for Labour is not just Conservative revival, it's the rise of Reform UK. Polling shows Reform overtaking Labour in many areas. This is not because voters love Nigel Farage's economic programme, which is frankly incoherent. It's because voters see Labour as chaotic, untrustworthy, unserious, and the Conservatives as no official challenge, as absurd. Disillusioned voters will turn anywhere if they conclude that Labour is simply the new version of the same old failure. Labour needs a reset. That reset must be brutal, honest and swift. And it's tempting for Starmer to keep Rachel Reeves in place to show loyalty, to avoid the headlines of a sacking, but loyalty is not leadership. And if Labour wants to prove it can run the country, it must first show it can run itself. And that may mean, however painful, finding a new chancellor.